Well, good morning, everyone. Today is Monday, November 29th. This is a joint Montgomery County Council Committee session with our Health and Human Services Committee. So I'm joined once again by Council members Rice and Glass, and we get a twofer today because we are also doing this jointly with our Education and Culture Committee, which is of course chaired by Council Member Rice. And we are also joined by Council members Navarro and Joann as well. And as a special bonus this morning, we are joined by the members of the Board of Education on a topic that is important to all of us, and we very much appreciate their leadership. In a moment, I'm going to turn it over to Board of Education President Brenda Wolf to say a few introductory comments on behalf of the entire board, but we're joined this morning also by Vice President Carla Sfse, Board Member Shebra Evans, Dr. Judy Docta, and Board Member Lynn Harris as well. And Rebecca Sandrasky will be joining us a little bit later in this presentation. So we have quorums of both the Council and the Board of Education this morning as we discuss this important topic. We're also joined this morning by Dr. Raymond Kroll, representing the Department of Health and Human Services and the executive branch. And we have outstanding leaders from Montgomery County Public Schools who will be giving a presentation as well. And from the community, representing community organizations, we have Diego Uriburu here, the Executive Director of Identity. So let me just make a few introductory comments and then turn it over to my colleague, Chairman Rice, to make some introductory comments. And of course, any of my colleagues who'd like to do so, just text me. But this is a follow-up to numerous conversations we have had over the years regarding Montgomery County's preparation and support for our newly arriving students who are coming with tremendous challenges, as we all know, and have come in several waves over the last 10 years here to Montgomery County and before that, in large part because of the civic and political unrest and economic extreme challenges and the ravages of climate change that have led so many of our neighbors in neighboring countries to come to the United States, seeking opportunity as so many generations have come before them. And as I shared prior to our last briefing, I had the opportunity to visit the border. It was actually the second time I'd had the opportunity to visit earlier this spring, and I was shocked and overwhelmed by the conditions that I saw personally. And we've all known for quite some time that the trauma that these students experience, both in leaving their countries of origin, but then taking the just absolutely harrowing trek across the border to the United States, is extraordinary. And we know these students come to our community and are come to be welcomed by families who are here. And we have always believed it's in our DNA to morally provide the support and care that these students need and deserve, but it's also a legal obligation for us to be able to provide that care as well. And while they are here, we are going to do everything that we can within reason to support their academic needs as well as their social and emotional needs, because it's not only in their best interest and their family's best interest for us to be able to do that, it's in our entire community's best interest. And let me just say publicly a couple more things. I was immensely impressed with the team of individuals, and I want to publicly thank once again Ms. Gillian Hubner, who as a consultant working with Joann Barnes and an entire team of individuals, including Luis Cardona, were able to stand up and build off of the infrastructure that we have established over generations to provide support for these families, but uniquely address the needs of this most recent wave of migrants, and did so in a way that was incredibly impressive, cut through red tape, and provided really an impressive strategic plan, which we're going to be getting an update today on. So I also want to publicly thank the county executive for working closely with the council and releasing the resources necessary for us to be able to provide support for these kids. And as we know, government alone is not and never going to be in a position to provide the holistic support that these children need. And so our community-based organizations and nonprofit partners continue to be a critical link, and we will be hearing from them today. So with that, Chairman Rice, I will turn it over to you to make some introductory comments as well. And then I will ask Board President Brenda Wolf to say some words on behalf of the entire Board of Education. Chairman Rice.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Vice President and Mr. Co-Chair. And let me just start off by thanking who's going to be our next speaker, the Board of Education. I really want to thank all of our education partners in general, because they've always led with the fact that having a more educated community is a better and stronger community. And so they know how important it is to make sure that education is there and those opportunities are afforded to everyone, whether that's in our pre-K through 12, going all the way up through our institutes of higher education at both Montgomery College and universities at Shady Grove, who continue to lead when it comes to how best we can ensure that people who are coming into our community are immediately attached with education opportunities and given all the supports that are necessary so that they can be successful. And why is that important? Well, look, as folks talk about all of the concerns that folks have in our community about people who are newly arriving here, whether it's, well, we need to make sure that we can communicate, so they need to learn the language. Well, you got to go to school to do that. You have to have supports like Mikhail and others that are out there that are helping people to be able to get ingrained with the community. But oh, by the way, isn't it great to have a person who speaks another language and then also is learning English so that they can help communicate with other residents that are already here who speak that other language, and also gives us the ability to make them more marketable, because now they're a bilingual employee who can go in and work not only here in the United States, but across the world. These are the things that I think are oftentimes short-sighted when it comes to folks stating things like, oh, you know, we don't feel as though folks are entitled. Everyone is entitled to a high quality, accessible education. Everyone. I don't care where you grow up, in what country you live in, across this great world of ours. The reality is that everyone should have that access. And so we need to do everything within our power on our shores to make sure that that's there. And especially here in Montgomery County, one of the most welcoming places, one of the most inclusive places, not only in this country, but in the world. And it really is well known for what it is that we do. And that's important. That's a good thing. It's good to be known as a good place where people feel accepted and welcomed and supported. It's not a bad thing. That's a great thing for us. And so again, for those, you know, again, those naysayers that are out there, and yes, I'm talking to you, the ones who think that somehow immigration is a bad thing, who think that somehow we should, you know, turn around and turn our shoulder to those who are seeking asylum in the United States of America. Let me just say this, that we for a long time talked about how important it was to welcome immigrants. And it was only recently in the past couple of decades that we've now started to say, okay, wait a minute, now we don't want to do this anymore. I mean, our country is born of immigrants. Just to be real about that. And so therefore, now is not the time to try and turn away from what our country was founded and born into, which was a country of immigrants, you know, who came here with native indigenous people who are already here and made home, and were able to figure out how to make it work. And if they could do that back then, as we celebrated this Thanksgiving holiday this past week and made it work, we can do it as well. So I look forward to working with each and every one of you. And again, just want to thank my education institution. I just wanted to level set in terms of why this is important, and really make sure that folks take away from this about how we, being a more inclusive, just, supportive society, can be a better society for each and every one of us, for all the things that we care about. So back to you, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, sorry. Be president in another week or so.
Thank you, Chairman Rice. I'd now like to thank Ms. Wolf for coming, representing, well, the entire member of the board. All the members of the board are here, but please, if you'd say a few words on behalf of the board, that'd be great.
Well, good morning, and thank you, Chairman Albornoz and Chairman Rice, and all the members of the County Council. I want to say that this has been such a great partnership between MCPS and the county, and it's so important for so many reasons, but it's especially important when it comes to how we welcome newcomers. We know that our newcomers are arriving with many needs, and to address those needs, it's going to take a lot of coordination and commitment among various agencies, the council, county executive, everyone has to be involved. We know also that a critical step towards supporting newcomer families is enrolling their children in school. School remains a vital portal to support and opportunity. Once in the school, we must be prepared to support students at whatever grade level they enter so that they're ready for their future and positioned to take advantage of this opportunity. So on behalf of my fellow board members, I want you to know that we are willing to ensure that our newcomers are getting the support that they need so that they can reach their potential. And we are welcoming this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, President Wolf. So let me just talk logistics for a second or two. So we have a large and impressive panel today. The way that this is going to work is we're going to hear presentations from HHS, from MCPS, and then from Diego Uriburu on behalf of the community partners that are key to ensuring the success of this initiative as well. We will then open it up for questions and answers among my colleagues. I have shared with President Wolf my cell phone number that I've requested that she share with her colleagues. If the members of the board would like to speak, please text me during the Q&A portion and I will call on you. Please make sure that you put your name when you text me because I'm not sure that I have everyone's cell phone already pre-programmed into my phone. And we have a hard stop today at 12 o'clock because the council is taking up state legislation this afternoon at 12:30, and we need a little break in between. And so if we're not done by 12, we'll have to do a follow-up session, but that's the goal of this morning, is to wrap up by 12. But we know we have a lot to get through. So with that, thank you, Ms. McMillan. I know that you worked with a number of partners to put together today's packet, and I believe that we will first be hearing from Dr. Raymond Kroll on behalf of the administration and the Health and Human Services Department. Dr. Kroll.
Good morning, Council Vice President Albornoz, Council President-elect Albornoz, I should say, and Chairman Rice, and to members of the County Council and to members of the Board of Education. Pleasure to see you all this morning, and pleasure to have a chance to update you and the Council on the work that has been done over the past 4 months, really longer than that, but past 4 months since the last time we talked, I think, to prepare for and address the needs of newcomers, including unaccompanied minors and the families or sponsors that support them. This is an issue that clearly we are all watching we've watched with horror for many months about what has happened along the southern border of the country and what continues to happen. But we also know that as newcomers arrive, there is a lot of work to be done to help them to adapt and adjust and to get into the flow of all the resources that are available to them in Montgomery County. So I want to introduce our newly hired newcomer coordinator, Ms. Tanya Alfaro. She's with us today, I believe, on one of the screens there. Ms. Alfaro brings some prior work experience with Montgomery County through our street outreach network, where she was really instrumental in much of the programming that went on for young ladies, and she co-hosted our conference on human trafficking. She's got extensive experience working with migrant and asylum-seeking children in Montgomery County and across the DMV. And I'm confident that those same skills are going to help us to build and maintain the network of services and supports for our newcomers. It's too soon this morning to throw her into the ring for today's presentation, but looking forward, you can expect to see her as she grows into this role. She'll be making her presence felt more and more. I also want to acknowledge Ms. Gillian Hubner, who has served as a consultant throughout this process and has played a very strong part in leading our work. Her font of knowledge and information and endless sea of ideas has been invaluable in launching our effort to build a thorough and welcoming program. She's been at this with us since our earliest conversations back in April. She's taken on a new role at Georgetown University, and her time with us is coming to a close, but her impact will be felt long beyond her time with us. So thank you, Gillian, for all you've done for us in the county. And then finally, I want to acknowledge Joann Barnes, who has, despite having resigned and having a grandchild to spend time with, has stayed with us over these months to continue to offer skills, insight, and knowledge to keep us on track with this initiative. Our overview today is going to highlight the work of an interagency team that Councilmember Alvarez has sort of outlined in earlier, so I won't repeat it. But the team has worked together to develop an implementation plan for how we will welcome and support newcomers now and into the future. The plan includes a number of areas that you'll hear about today. Communications, both between partners and, importantly, with newcomers as they arrive in the county. Navigation and case management, including access to health and mental health and other supports so that folks can get what they need and can get it quickly. Legal services, both for immigration and for anything else that might arise for newcomers as they come into the county. Positive youth development and recreation, so that our youth have some immediate ways of connecting with each other and with other youth in the county, and can get some support to begin to deal with some non-mental health ways of dealing with some of the stress and acclimation needs that they'll have. Anti-discrimination, public safety, and trafficking prevention are all part of the effort and part of this plan. And then finally, of course, education and school-based services. We want to highlight the work and the accomplishments to date, as well as some of the challenges in the work. This is not a finished product, but we do have some good news to share, and we know that there's a lot more work to do to get fully up to speed. We're also looking at models where philanthropy might be a key partner in some of the social emotional activities for youth. We're making presentations to philanthropy and the hopes that they will find an avenue that they can support in this work. It's an example of a place where we know we need to do more work. We'll identify some other areas that this group has identified as needing more attention as we get into this presentation. You'll see some of that. And this includes some of the immediate actions to address safety and resiliency for newcomer youth as they interact with others in the school and community. This group is dynamic, and it is always in motion, both planning and developing a service system, but also connecting with newcomers who are here now and have some needs. Even as we were preparing this presentation, our PYD team with Luis Cardona, led by Luis Cardona, coordinated a newcomers leadership conference with newcomer youth from several schools. You'll hear about that as we go through it, but it is an example of the current and the future work that we need to do for folks who are coming into newly arrived in the county. And with that, I'm going to stop, and I believe Diego Uriburu had some opening remarks that he wanted to make, and then I think we can jump into it, unless the order has changed.
So I think what we're going to do is we're going to hear the presentation from you guys, and then MCPS, and then Diego's going to say comments then and give his own presentation as well.
Okay, in that case, I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Barnes, I think, who will open up for us, and then over to and let her flow through the presentation for HHS.
I believe Mr. Monteleone had some opening comments for MCPS before we start the formal presentation.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. Just trying to get my camera on there. I'm Damon Monteleone, Assistant Chief of Teaching, Learning, and Schools, a large office in MCPS that oversees special education, student family support and engagement, curriculum and instruction, and school support and improvement. And under that umbrella falls the Office of International Enrollment. And we're really proud to showcase some of the work that we've done as we've recalibrated really our approach to our newcomers and to our students from across the world who we want to enroll. So we are really excited about what we've been able to do and where we can go. And certainly there have been bumps along the way, but I have to give big credit to the team that is here. And they will be speaking shortly, but Everett Davis, the Acting Associate Superintendent of SFSE, is with us today. Margarita Borges, the Acting Director in SFSE over IAE, is with us today. Dr. Jennifer Martin, who's new to MCPS, but who leads all of our English language learner services, K through 12 is with us. I believe Stephanie Izzard and Tamara Hewitt and Sandra Blatten are also here, and they are specialists with the Office of Curriculum Instruction and with SFSE. And we've already, I believe, welcomed our board members, but I do think that with us out there in Zoom land are board members Daka, Evans, Harris, Silvestre, Smondrowski, and Wolf. So we want to make sure that we welcome them and thank them as well. So an honor to be here, and I can't wait to see what our team is able to present. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Back over to HHS.
Good morning to all council members, board members, representatives from the county executive's office. I know that our assistant CAO, Sonia Mora, who is overseeing this work, is with us this morning. We're really just glad to be able to present to you what this mighty team has done so far with this work. I'll be joined by the co-chairs of each of the subcommittees as we go through. We'll present their own slides. I'd like to kick us off with just a glance at some of the numbers. Hopefully you have this information in your materials. I won't spend a lot of time on it. We want to get right into the meat of what the committees have been doing. But we're starting off with an update of what the situation is like in Montgomery County now with our latest data. Next slide. I'm sorry, I just jumped right into it. Thank you. With our latest data from the Office of Refugee Resettlement, we have 1,230 unaccompanied children released to sponsors in Montgomery County. But we know that that doesn't represent the full picture. There are other children arriving on their own or arriving with families or other caregivers. And it's sometimes difficult to be able to put a number on the exact number of children that we are working with, but you will see from the work that we've done both on the county side as well as the MCPS side that we are keeping track of the connections and encounters that we make. The next slide just shows regionally that we continue to be an incredible part of what's happening in the region with the latest ORR data showing over 4,500 youth being released in this area. And the next slide just quickly shows that same data broken out by month based on the data we have from January through the end of September. I wanted to give a brief update on what's happening with some of our hiring based on the approvals that we got for supplemental funding. In HHS, we have hired the newcomer coordinator who was introduced to you earlier, Ms. Tanya Alfaro. We have hired 3 contract family support workers in our cluster projects, and they are complementing the work of the navigation team that we already have in place. We do have positions in MCPS that where they have identified a newcomer coordinator, which they will talk about later, as well as having hired ESOL transition counselors and SLIFE coaches. I did want to mention that for the positions that were approved for us as merit positions, we are in the process of hiring those, and they include the legal services coordinator at the Gilchrist Center, the positive youth development community service aides, and positions at the Department of Recreation that will oversee some of the program enhancements that they're bringing to this project. Next slide. Dr. Crow already mentioned the 6 areas that we are broken into to do our work. I will move right past this slide, right into the next slide, which opens up our first committee, which I am one of the co-chairs of, and that is the Communications Committee. Our goal is to make sure that we can get the message out to newcomers in their own languages with timely information, accurate information to make sure that they can access the supports, the education and social services that are available to them. This slide lists some of the goals that we plan to use. We have a contract with an outside vendor, the communication shop, and our plan is to continue to build on lessons that we saw in Salud y Bienestar. We want to use the Spanish language hotline. We want to continue to use WhatsApp, which has proven to be an effective means of communication in the community. And we also want to make sure that we increase our ability to access primary language preference. And that not only is Latino, but also for Mayan and indigenous languages that we know are going to be a factor in serving the families that we're currently working with. Next slide. Just to update you on what we've done so far, our vendor started off with a couple of focus groups. We held a focus group with the providers that are actively involved in this work. And we held a focus group with several families that either are newcomer families or have newcomers in now a part of their family. And on the left, we summarize some of the lessons that we learned from those focus groups. We got information that we knew, but confirmed some of the challenges in navigating through our systems to enroll in school, to access services, and to navigate just generally the culture and language here in Montgomery County. Many of our newcomers don't have internet access. So part of our communications plan takes that into consideration by using other methods that are not internet dependent. We recognize that it's important to include the perspective of our community leaders and community partners who once were also newcomers. And also we want to make sure that we engage those same stakeholder groups in sharing information about the resources and services. Our progress thus far, the communication shop, we're delighted to be working with them on a branding and communications campaign. Our first deliverables are due later this week, but we've seen some proofs of things that we're really pleased with. We can't wait to share them with council. We are preparing Spanish and Mayan language public service announcements for both video, for social media, and radio. We've already had some initial communications even with Comcast. Our partners are strengthening their capacity to meet the needs of indigenous languages using contracted language lines. What we're learning, though, is that the resources are few, and we do need to do some work to help increase the number of resources in Montgomery County. We're working on metrics to determine the effectiveness of the strategies that we put in place. We're going to be looking at the number of times our information that we put online is accessed, how many clicks we might get on a website, and how many touches we might get as a result of our WhatsApp campaign. And our navigators will be asking questions so that we're able to determine how effective this communication strategy is. But as Dr. Krause said, it's all not fun and games. There are some challenges. Again, I mentioned finding more culturally competent resources, addressing literacy levels, and our ability to connect with newcomers are all areas that we continue to work on. Next slide. I'm going to turn it over now to Ms. Monica Martin to walk us through a few slides on the next committee.
Thank you, Joanne. Good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to be with you here this morning and to be here starting to kind of pass the torch to Ms. Tanya Alfaro, who I'm so excited is on our team to continue leading this work. But I need to start off acknowledging also our wonderful partner Identity, and Ms. Sfse Guzman, who's been my co-chair for this committee for navigation, case management, health, and mental health, or access to health and mental health services. So this slide just highlights the partners, our primary partners that are involved in this network at this point in time, many of whom were not involved in the original planning process that led to the special appropriations request. And they've been working hard with us for a few months here. They have worked hard with us to identify their capacity, their commitments, and also some limitations so that we can move this work forward. Next slide. Of course, we're focused on engagement and navigation work. I want to thank our HHS leadership and our Office of Procurement for recognizing that we did have an emergency procurement need to have an ample army, if you will, of navigators working with us in this effort. So we do have CASA working with us with up to 14 navigators at any point in time, stationed in different locations in the county, and then of course, in the early fall at Rocking Horse at the Welcome Center with MCPS to assist with school enrollment, to do warm handoff to services, also at COVID testing sites, but working through that hotline that Joann already showcased in the communication slides, as well as a community entry point to connect our newcomers to case management services. I should say CASA does do more than navigation. They do some short-term case management work, but then for ongoing longer-term needs, which many of our newcomers have, they are the spoke in the wheel in this growing navigation network for us for the initial point of entry. In terms of case management work, we do have expanded capacity through the appropriation that is in place with Identity, not just for referrals from the high school wellness centers, but general referrals from the CASA hotline and other community partners, and also expanding underway through different partners and focus on different MET schools with our linkages to learning partners, as well as you heard earlier, through our cluster projects. Next. This is a snapshot of the data that we have in place for those newcomers that this network engaged with in September. So for the month of September, over 1,000 individuals were served from about 350 newcomer households. And our definition here for newcomer is any resident that's new to Montgomery County from another country that has been here since January of 2021, or arrived from January 2021 moving forward. So this calendar year. And a household, again, is defined as it can be an individual, young adult, or older youth, or it can be a family unit. So again, just a snapshot of what this network has engaged with. This is some rudimentary data where we're building data templates as the network was coming together. So we have some gaps in the data. We're going to continue working on refining that. But in terms of countries of origin for those newcomers that we are engaging with, although we didn't capture that for about over 40% of those, and again, because a lot of these household units we engage with at Rocking Horse, there were a lot of quick interactions, quick navigation, and then some longer term ones. But of those that we did capture country of origin from the community-based navigation side, we have El Salvador and Honduras as the top two countries we've engaged with, followed by Guatemala, and then Nicaragua and Peru in smaller amounts. And in terms of the cities that they are now residing in, as they've arrived here in Montgomery County, though close to 40%, we don't have that yet in this set of information. We've got over a third that we know are living in Silver Spring, followed by 11% in Gaithersburg, so on and so forth. I won't read the rest of that off to you. Again, out of those 350 households, close to 300 of them were definitely service with school enrollment navigation support needs as an extension of the work that was happening and needed over at MCPS. Again, I want to thank CASA for their effort with being all hands on deck over there, as well as Identity stepping and supporting some of my team directly over at Rocking Horse as well. But for the non-school enrollment needs and services connected to, here you've got a snapshot on the chart of the frequency of needs and connections that were made. Next slide. Also from the wellness angle in terms of health and mental health, here's some data from Care for Kids. And this is specifically, I want to thank our public health partners for this data, again, specifically for children enrolled in Care for Kids that were identified as coming through the Office of Refugee and Resettlement that enrolled between January and October. So this is a little bit more recent data of this year. So you see here that we do have a large number that are school-age youth, 42% out of the 724 that enrolled during this time frame, followed by then our adolescent population, about a quarter, and then some younger kiddos as well. And in terms of countries of origin for those children that have engaged and been connected to Care for Kids insurance and support services, we do there have those top two countries kind of highlighted again, Honduras and El Salvador, followed by Guatemala, and then some others as well. Next slide. This is just a snapshot of kind of our infrastructure and development around connections between our METS and CREA schools and kind of our first line of community or school-based providers that we are working to strengthen relationships with at specific METS sites. So again, our community-based entry point is the CASA hotline, flowing from there to network partners. But for those METS and CREA schools who do not have linkages learning on site or do not have a school-based health and wellness center on site, this right now is loosely the set of partners that locally are available to connect with those student support personnel at those schools. And I really want to thank my colleague Margarita Borges for her collaborative work in identifying the specific school staff that we are still working on connecting to all of these partners. So we're in different phases in some of these sites that's already happening beautifully. In some of these others, there's still some ramping up and capacity building happening both on the MCPS and in terms of hiring, which I know they'll talk about later, and also through our community-based partners and some of the expansions of their contracts to specifically serve newcomers. Next slide. This network is also on an ongoing basis charged with identifying professional development needs for each other. We did have our first of what will be a series of trainings from the University of Maryland Safe Center on human trafficking identification and response that was specific to this metro area and some trends around newcomers. That was kind of a 101. We're going to be following up with more on that to make sure all of our providers are competent with regards to identifying potential victims of human trafficking and getting specialty support services for them. We're also working with consultants from the International Mayan League on a combined training with MCPS on the case of Indigenous children in the DC metro area. And through our fabulous colleague and consultant, Gillian Hubner, connected to UNICEF on a learning series that is specific to a humanitarian approach and working with migrant children and adolescents that may be brought to this network specifically from Montgomery County providers. So we're excited about that. The other thing this network is doing is, as we are working with newcomers, of course, identifying systems and policy barriers. So one of the things we started working on with public health and with Margarita and MCPS is how much earlier we can identify and get our newcomers enrolled in Care for Kids as a basic safety net service. And this is some of the data that we looked at in trying to figure out a different process and pathway for doing that together. This is showing you that in this calendar year, of those ORR kids that are enrolled in Care for Kids, close to half of them had been in the country for 10 months before they access Care for Kids and health insurance. Now, that's how long they've been in the country, not in the county. So we don't really have a great sense of how long they were here with us before they were connected. We're working to drill down on that. But of course, it's still a great concern to have close to half of our newcomers not necessarily connected to that service. So we're working on improving those stats. Next slide. Other challenges and policy barriers that I think will be talked about a little bit later as well. One is meeting the education needs of newcomers with a high school diploma from their country of origin. And so our Office of Community Partnerships, I know that also Carla Sfse, who's here as a board member, but also very involved in, of course, Montgomery College's response to that, and other folks, Sonia Mora and Vivi Otero, have been talking about this and may have updates later on in this hearing to provide around that, but we want to make sure we figure out a way to meet that gap across our system. Also, the identification through our case management partners of young people whose housing or shelter may be at jeopardy through the original arrangement that they had with sponsors that they're living with here in Montgomery County. And so at this point, we are working on a case-by-case basis to provide exceptions to a 9-month residency requirement to make sure that we're able to meet those needs with our services to end and prevent homelessness chief and deputy chief. And we're going to continue to track the volume of that to see if additional resources are needed. But at this point, that's what's the status is. And then, of course, addressing somatic healthcare needs of CREA students. And I would acknowledge, of course, my wonderful colleague, Ms. Cardona, for jumping in with public health to explore some policy changes and some possibilities to expand high school wellness center access and other supports to them, as well as Dr. Rogers, our strategy and policy officer there in public health. Next. I think I'm handing it off here to Diane Vu to talk about the Legal Services Committee.
Thank you, Monica. So for legal services, our goal is to provide comprehensive legal screenings, services, and representation for the unaccompanied children, families, and or their sponsors through support to the legal immigration service providers. Additionally, what we want to do is bring on board a legal services coordinator that will be housed at the Gilchrist Immigrant Resource Center to coordinate referrals to the different legal service providers. And as you heard earlier from Joann Barnes, we are in process for recruitment. Why is this important? I just want to remind everyone from our previous presentations that all unaccompanied migrant children and youth are placed in deportation proceedings upon their release to the families or the sponsors. 73% of the unaccompanied minors who were represented in court were granted permission to stay in the United States, compared to only 15% of unrepresented children. We're investing so many resources into providing comprehensive services, and we need to do everything that we can to ensure that these unaccompanied migrant children and youth are able to legally stay in the country. So in the next slide, going into this year, there were already 4 existing contracts with legal immigration service providers to provide eligibility screening and direct legal representation of low-income county residents who were in deportation and removal proceedings. The 4 providers, HIAS, Ayuda, Kind, and Luminous, formerly called FIRM, has provided so far in 2021 services to 275 clients, of which 106 were to unaccompanied minors. However, due to their capacity constraints, some of the legal service providers have had to refer clients out after their initial screenings. Catholic Charities Legal Orientation Program for Custodians of Unaccompanied Minors, which is the LOPC program, has provided legal orientations to 347 guardians just in August and 357 guardians in September, and we see the need increasing. With the additional $250,000 that was allocated, we just completed a grants process for 4 additional contracts are going to be awarded to legal service providers for legal services and or legal representation to newly arriving migrant and asylum seeking children, youth, and their families. Ayuda Asylum Works, HIAS, and the University of Maryland Safe Center, who are going to be the contract, who are going to receive the contracts, estimate that they will be able to provide additional direct representation to somewhere between 43 to 47 clients within the next 12 months. And they will be able to provide services to additional 180 to 200 people. The additional services include legal screenings, education services, legal preparedness, translation and interpretations, and also referrals to other services. These contracts will also allow legal service providers to represent guardians or other adults who are seeking custody of the child for the limited purpose of seeking special immigrant juvenile status. And as you heard Dr. Kroll mention at the beginning, really our goal is to eventually establish a public-private partnership to expand access to legal services. You've seen this in other jurisdictions such as DC, Prince George's County, Baltimore, Los Angeles, New York City. And so we are really looking to expand the access to legal services and leveraging both county and private dollars for that as well. And so now I'm going to turn it over to the next presenter.
Luis Cardona.
Good morning, everyone. Luis Cardona, Senior Administrator for the HHS Positive Youth Development Program. And as you can see, our perspective is really trying to figure out what we can do to support the protective factors of the students that we're serving. And we've done significant investment in a number of different areas. It should be noted that a lot of our direction has come from the learning curve that we experienced from the surges of 2014 to 2018, looking at what really worked for us, what didn't work, what we needed to strengthen. And so I want to start off by, also acknowledging our partners in this, Identity, Sfse Guzman, Carolina Camacho, Wesley Reyes Rosa on my staff, as well as some of our community partners like Imagination Stage and the Recreation Department Positive Youth Development Program. So one of the many things that we had to do under the Positive Youth Development and Recreation component of this was to convene a youth leadership conference for newcomers. And the intent is really to make sure that we are connecting those students with the adequate resources or the most ideal resources for them to thrive, not just in school, but to be able to thrive in the community and continue to be contributing members to residents here in Montgomery County. And so we just held our first one in Montgomery College last week, and kudos to Gloria Bonilla over at Montgomery College for her great work, for her leadership, and for her guidance. I don't know what we would do without her, so I'm really grateful to Gloria. I was happy to see school board member Sylvester, who came through and stopped through. It was a very powerful event. We actually were able to implement a survey with all the participants. I do have some raw data. We still have to look at it a little bit more and decipher some of it, but I'd be more than happy to share some examples of some of the things that the students brought up, in particular as it related to that success. In addition, the other piece is that we've extended the hours of our high school-based wellness centers. As you know, we currently have 4 of them, and come January, our goal is we're going to do everything in our power to open a 5th one at Seneca Valley High School, which is really important because that's the site of the up-county CREA program. And so the intent of expanding those hours is to help facilitate all the necessary services for those students. And so as of right now, at both the Wheaton and the, excuse me, and this, at the Wheaton Wellness Center, students who are at the CREA program through Edison are able to access the Positive Youth Development Services. As Monica alluded to earlier, we are trying to figure out a way to revise some policy to ensure that those Edison CREA participants can access somatic health services. And kudos to CREA in particular, Lindsay and her team, because we've been really working together to make sure we can do our best to address the needs of these students. The additional supplement that we added to this is the expansion of the Oimed program. As many of us know, the Oimed program was one of our best practices that came about as a result of the huge need of behavioral health supports for so many of these children and students. And just quoting our former director, Uma Alawalia, who said, we will never be able to provide the sufficient behavioral health supports for the need. And so it really pushed us to think outside the box. And fortunately to Councilmember Alvarez and Councilmember Navarro's good friend of ours, Antonio Tejirino, in his role on the board at Imagination Stage, we were able to forge a partnership to create a program, a pilot program that told the story that led to a script, that led to a play about these children and students. And in the past, we've done it at 3 schools. Now we are going to be expanded into 6 schools come January. As Joann Barnes mentioned earlier, there's also been the piece around the increasing the capacity of the Street Outreach Network to serve this population. And so our hope is in the new year, and hopefully sometime mid-late January, a possibility to get those positions going. In addition, the Recreation Department is moving forward on trying to expand the Soccer for Change program to include middle school age students, both boys and girls, and have been working very closely with Margarita Borges and others at MCPS to target those schools that we believe are in most need. So in terms of our progress, next slide, I'm sorry. Again, we've expanded the hours of the wellness centers. We've been able to do our first annual youth leadership conference for newcomer students. I mean, we have a lot of things that are in the mix, but we still have a lot of work to do. Our goal is, as we move forward with the youth leadership conference, that we'll be able to expand it to those school clusters, primarily where there's ESOL METS programs as well. Okay, next slide. And I just want to acknowledge my good friend and nemesis, Jody Finkelstein. Most know I'm a hardcore Yankee fan. Jody's a Red Sox fan, but we managed to get along and work together. And as well as Mr. Ed Clark and Phil Andrews, Ed Clark at School Security and Phil Andrews in State's Attorney's Office, and Amy Dom's division over at the police department, where we're trying to ensure that we're doing everything to address any racial or hate crime directed at this population, looking at the lessons learned from 2014 to 2017, where we experienced a spike in crime, homicides, victimization directed at this population, direct recruitment for gang involvement, extortion of families. And we realized that if we don't invest on the front end with a lot of these social programs, unfortunately, these children, these populations become more vulnerable. And so what we learned is we've got to do a better job of strengthening those efforts. And I feel very comfortable in some of the things we've been able to do. We did a cross-agency conference at the beginning of the school year with all the MCPS school security, thanks to Ed Clark, where we were able to provide them some general information about this population, but also thanks to Jody Finkelstein and the Safe Center, also providing some general information on sex trafficking and being able to understand it. And so we look forward to figuring out how we can continue to expand that. Our focus now is going to look at secondary school administrators in particular, so they develop a better understanding of what resources are available to them, but also to have a better understanding of what they're experiencing in their school, what their students are experiencing. Then last but not least on this piece, we also wanted to talk about, we all saw tragically that there was a newcomer student that unfortunately was stabbed a couple of weeks ago. And MCPS was very responsive in the sense that we were able to pull together a meeting to include the Recreation Department and other programs to figure out what we can do to make sure that we're supporting our newcomer populations, but also preventing such tragedies from happening again. Then the last piece, I don't know, Jody, if you wanted to chime in, but again, I can't emphasize how important Jody's involvement has been in this process, because many of us know some of the horrific stories of the victimization of primarily middle school girls, going back to the surge of 2014 and 17, or actually 18. They were very high risk, were victimized, can't say any other way than actually sexually assaulted or raped. And so figuring out how our systems can build our skill sets to make sure we can prevent those tragedies from happening. So I think that ends my piece. I want to hand it off to Mr. Everett Davis at MCPS.
Before we go to Everett, we have one last slide. I think, Luis, this slide, you already touched on some of the accomplishments that you guys have done already in the Public Safety Trafficking Prevention Committee. So the next slide is just before we hand it off to MCPS, we wanted to talk about what we've recognized so far in our work as areas we need to watch carefully. Just because we're not sure that our initial plan has fully addressed the needs. So we are watching the need, first of all, for some administrative support to enhance the work that we're doing with the newcomer coordination. You know, a lot of times we take on additional work and we don't build out the infrastructure to make sure that we can carry that work off in an effective manner. And we are looking at a way to build in some additional support on the team that Monica Martin leads. And right now we think that we can do that within the budget that we have. So it is, again, something we're keeping an eye on. We're making sure that we put in place resources to continue our navigation services. Right now, those services go through the end of February, but I think it's clear from our volume that we need to continue that at least through the end of the year, and we'll be looking closely to see if that same level needs to continue into FY23. There's been a lot of talk about some of the training that we're doing, but we've noticed a gap with the training that we need to address human trafficking. And so we do want to look at the work that Safe Center is doing for us from the University of Maryland and see if that will need to be increased, because we recognize that almost half of the human trafficking cases since January of 2021 have been unaccompanied youth. We're taking some immediate steps to engage youth in positive behaviors. And this ties to the last screen that Luis Cardona just talked about, wanting to make sure that we address public safety and anti-discrimination issues. We're looking for options to engage youth in positive behavior, both newcomer youth as well as some of the youth that end up actually bullying against those newcomers. And we also are keeping a close eye on the legal services. Just listening to the statistics that Diane raised, it's important that young people have the advantage of either legal support or at least legal education around the right things to do to keep them in line for a positive outcome in their deportation hearings. And that is it for us. And I turn it over to Everett. Thank you.
And I think Sonia Blotner is in the waiting room. So before MCPS starts, I just wanted to see if we could let her in.
And to colleagues who have texted me, we're going to wait until after all presentations, because all of this is inextricably linked, and ask our questions after all presentations.
All right, so good morning to our board members, to our council members, to the panel, our community partners, and to those who are joining us at home. It is a pleasure to represent MCPS this morning, along with my colleagues, Ms. Borcase, as well as Dr. Norton. We are excited to share the education and school-based service updates that highlight each of the objectives from our action plan, including actions, partners, status timeline, as well as metrics. Our goal has been and will continue to be to create an environment for newcomer students and families that is welcoming and where their social emotional needs and trauma are addressed so that they are available to learn and engage in the community. Not only does this goal align with our district strategic initiatives implementation plan, or DSIP, area of well-being support, but also with our Board of Ed strategic plan priority area number 2, which is well-being and family engagement. In addition to student and family support and engagement, as well as curriculum and instructional programs who are represented in this presentation, I also wanted to thank our partners in school support and improvement, as well as special education, who have partnered with us around this critical work. We are fortunate to collaborate as one Office of Teaching, Learning in Schools, as well as with several additional colleagues, offices within MCPS. We know that it truly takes a village, as well as collaboration, coordination, and communication, and that we should not and cannot do this work in isolation. With that, I will turn it over to Ms. Borges to to continue the presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Mr. Everett Davis, and thank you for your support. I want to apologize ahead of time. I may be having some connectivity issues in case I get momentarily frozen. It's such a pleasure to be here with you this morning. And I want to express my deepest gratitude to all of our MCPS, Montgomery County, and community partners for the wonderful collaboration on this most important work. Although we acknowledge there's still much to be done to fully support our most recent arrivals and all newcomers, we are proud to share with you all of the progress that has been made up to this point. I want to start today by highlighting the total number of newcomers from around the world that have been enrolled since July 1st. As of November 22nd, we have enrolled over 2,100 students, and as of this morning, the number of newcomers is 2,210. As you can see, the highlighted portion of the graph shows what historically tends to be the busiest enrollment months of the year, July through October, in the previous 4 years. However, this year was unusual in that we started slowly in July, August, and picked up significantly in September through October and November. We're still going strong with over 500 students enrolled in November and more reaching out to us every day still. We have welcomed families from Japan, Afghanistan, Brazil, Nigeria, and many more other countries. Today, we will be focusing on the families and unaccompanied minors coming to us from our southern border and processed through the Office of Refugee Resettlement. It is important to point out that although many of the students were unaccompanied when they entered the country, they were reunited with family once they arrived in our county and were enrolled by a parent or family member. It is also important to note that although I will be drilling down to OR student data on many of the upcoming graphs, some of the graphs zoom back out to total newcomer numbers because we are still disaggregating some of the data points for our
Ms. Borges, we're unfortunately catching every fifth word, so we are having some internet connection problems with you. Can you? Yeah, let's try without your camera and see if that's better.
I'm so sorry. Yes, thank you.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. In this graph, you can see the total number broken down by OR and non-OR students. Need to jump in at this point.
No, we can still hear you.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So far, about 34% of all newcomers enrolled are OR students. It is important to note that this number is a close approximation as some OR students were not identified if they enrolled with a parent or they didn't present the OR paperwork at intake. We do not directly request or require that families present OR documentation if they are able to meet the identification and residency requirements with the paperwork they present at intake. Most of the students we are enrolling now are OR students, so we will continue to capture the growing number of this population. Next slide, please. Again, we want to emphasize that although we are focusing on OR students during today's presentation, MCPS is committed to create an environment for all newcomer students and families that is welcoming and where they're social to learn and engage in the community. In this graph, you can see MCPS or enrollment data over the past 5 years. We are clearly surpassing total enrollment numbers here compared to our numbers since FY18. We know this number will continue to grow over the coming weeks as families continue to contact us for enrollment. Next slide, please. Due to continued pandemic challenges and restrictions, we continue to enroll students virtually as much as possible. The process can be best described in 4 distinct phases. In phase 1, the family contacts MCPS and submits paperwork either electronically via email to our Dropbox or drops off paperwork at our Welcome Center to be reviewed. In phase 2, the documentation is reviewed by our first team and the family is contacted for any missing paperwork. In phase 3, once documentation is complete, the family is assigned to an intake specialist where all documentation is evaluated, including school records, and the student is cleared for testing and enrollment at the school. In phase 4, eligible students are screened for ELP and SLIFE services, and SLIFE is for our students with interrupted education. After cleared, action is sent to the school for the final step of the enrollment process. The enrollment process can last anywhere between 2 and 3 weeks, depending on the student's enrollment situation. Currently, most enrollment is being processed in under 2 weeks. Some of the challenges around enrollment this past summer is the fact that enrollment started much later in September through October and now even November due to the unusual days remaining virtual. Another challenge is families missing documentation and the difficulties we've had to contact them on a regular basis. And families struggling with residency verification, although we have alternate processes to help them with that. And families also having difficulties obtaining records from their countries or their records were taken away at the border. But we have ways to work with families around that, but those are definite challenges that we faced with the enrollment. Next slide, please. In this graph, we can see how the OR versus non-OR student enrollment has changed over the past 5 months. You can see that OR enrollment started slowly in July, as denoted by the blue segment of the bar, and grew significantly throughout the summer and current month, while the non-OR enrollment started strongly and declined steadily over the same period. We have anecdotal data from speaking with students and families at intake that many of the older students chose to wait to enroll as many needed to work to help support their families. Also, many families chose to wait in general to focus on finding jobs and proper housing. Next slide, please. This graph shows overall newcomer enrollment numbers by grade level and gender. Although these numbers are not disaggregated by OR students, we are finding that the same trend holds for that subgroup as well. A large portion of the newcomer students we've enrolled so far are of high school age, enrolling in 9th grade, and there tend to be more male than female students, although that's more equally distributed than by grade level. Next slide, please. This first graph shows overall enrollment by gender and ethnicity, which also translates to our OR enrollment numbers. The majority of our newcomers have self-identified as Hispanic. Although the Office of Refugee Resettlement reported that many of our newcomers would be indigenous, our ethnicity and race graph shows how these students have self-identified differently, creating a challenge for us to make sure that we identify them and support them appropriately. The second graph shows the breakdown of enrollment by country of previous instruction. The top 3 countries our newcomers are coming from are Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala, which is consistent with the information shared by Monica Martin earlier in the presentation. Next slide, please. I will now hand the presentation over to Dr. Jennifer Norton, who will share more information.
council members. My name is Dr. Jennifer Norton, and I serve as the director for the Department of English Learners and Multilingual Education at MCPS. Department supervisors Tamara Hewlett and Sanja Blutner are here as well. MCPS provides language instruction services for students who are English learners, also known as Emergent Multilingual learners, and we are continually refining our programming to best support our students. We are prepared to serve students at all levels and backgrounds and have been working hard to prepare responsive academic and language programming and professional development to support the expected newcomers referred by the Office of Refugee Resettlement. As you can see on this slide, many of our newcomer students arrive with varying levels of English proficiency, and our students who are in the group of ORR arrive primarily with beginning levels of English proficiency. So after students complete the intake process, students are placed in English language development programming based on their proficiency level and if they are identified as SLIFE during the enrollment process. Next slide, please. More than 400 newcomers have been identified as SLIFE. 44 in elementary, 91 in middle school, and 337 in high school. And as Margarita shared earlier, that number is changing daily. The schools that are listed here on this slide have programs for students who are newcomers, who have been identified as SLIFE or having limited or interrupted formal education and being English learners or emergent multilingual learners. The schools that are in bold are the schools that are welcoming the highest number of newcomers, including both SLIFE and non-SLIFE. So to date, there are 44 elementary students who have been identified as SLIFE who are enrolled across 27 schools. These students receive English language development services as well as support from 3 SLIFE coaches who work with the students directly to accelerate their learning, and they also coach teachers to build their capacity to teach these students effectively. The coaches model trauma-informed practices and how to move students forward in foundational skills while also teaching grade-level content and language. This, as you can imagine, requires a lot of skill, and the model that we're using with coaches allows for more real-time examples and feedback to help build teachers' capacity. One challenge that we are facing is that there are currently 2 additional SLIFE coach positions that are open and unfilled due to lack of applicants. At the 22 middle and high school sites, there are over 400 SLIFE newcomers who enrolled this year in the Multidisciplinary Education Training and Support Program, also known as METS. The METS program is designed to meet the linguistic and academic needs of newcomer emergent multilingual learners who have had limited or no previous schooling or significant schooling gaps. Students enrolling in the METS program can do so for up to 2 years, and they receive instruction in developing English language proficiency and basic literacy and academic skills in mathematics. With students continuing to enroll in schools through October and November, schools strive to welcome students and place them in the appropriate grade and courses smoothly. However, schools are welcoming more students than usual after the beginning of the school year, and some schools are experiencing higher enrollment of emergent multilingual learners than had been projected. So schools are requesting additional English language development teachers, and we also have a shortage of teachers to fill open positions. We have requested 10 additional teachers through the ARP grant, and this is pending approval by County Council. We will then, upon approval, be able to recruit for these positions in the near future, although that is, of course, in the context of this labor shortage. I'll pass back to Margarita for a moment to share more about this slide.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm going to try it with my camera on again. In addition to ELD programming, MCPS provides a number of social, emotional, and parent engagement supports to newcomer families. Our ESOL transition counselors, or ETCs, support ELD teachers in the classroom to deliver SEL lessons or social emotional lessons to our newcomer students in their ELD classes, and also meet with students one-on-one or in small groups to provide much needed support around acculturation, unification, and trauma. Our parent community coordinators, or PCCs, support newcomer families by engaging with the parents and helping them navigate the school system, as well as connecting them to much needed resources within the community, such as housing, food, legal services, etc. Our people personnel workers, school-based ESOL counselors, and student well-being teams support our newcomer students and their families in a myriad of ways, from attendance issues to scheduling to obtaining additional social emotional support within the classrooms. We also have restorative justice and social emotional learning programs within schools to support our newcomer students. And I'm sending it back to Dr. Norton.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay. So our Department of English Learners and Multilingual Education oversee English language development services and provide professional development and professional learning opportunities to schools to support effective implementation of English language development programs. In addition to the regular professional learning for all English language development teachers and cohort trainings for first and second year ELD teachers, the department also provides guidance and professional development specific to serving SLIFE students. Examples specific to SLIFE instruction include professional learning for trauma-informed practices, provision of diagnostic tools and professional learning on how to use those tools to understand students' current levels, examples of how to co-plan and co-teach, and intervention tools to build foundational skills. Our professional development aims to reach wide range of roles, including classroom teachers, English language development teachers, reading specialists, and math representatives. Next slide, please. Specific to the secondary level, we provide professional learning on teaching foundational skills for students who are at middle and high school levels, and on using interventions for SLIFE students, as well as using an English language arts aligned ELD curriculum with this specific population, and PD on collaboration and co-teaching. Next slide. The department will be monitoring growth for students who are emergent multilingual learners, and we will disaggregate specifically for those students who have been identified as ORR. So we use selected key interventions and assessments shown on this slide to support literacy, language, and math growth. And students' growth may vary depending on each student's starting point, what date they enrolled in school this year, but our aim is to increase lexiles or quantile performance as indicated, depending on the particular measure. Ideally, we want to see students move into grade level range by the end of the year. At the end of January, which marks the end of the second quarter, we will analyze the data to identify trends, and we will work with schools on how to use the data to guide instruction. I will turn it back to Margarita to share specific social emotional supports being offered by MCPS.
Thank you. We have focused on targeted training for key staff members who work with our newcomers on a regular basis. Some of the social emotional training that these key personnel have completed or are in the process of completing include cultural competency for Indigenous peoples, teams from priority schools in collaboration with the HHS, and we are focusing on our core key teams, which are our ESOL transition counselors, parent community coordinators, people personnel workers, school-based ESOL counselors, and others. We are also completing our Cultura Cura training for staff. The first cohort completed its training for 20 of the ESOL transition counselors in October, and cohorts 2 and 3 will be completed in December and January, and we will be offering that training to our other key staff members, such as school-based ESOL counselors, resource counselors, specialists, and ESOL staff. The neurosequential model for education was, the training was completed by 14 of our ESOL transition counselors, and it's a train the trainer model. So they will be able to go in to schools and build their capacity on the best teaching strategies and practices for supporting students with trauma. Next slide, please. In the graphs, we are highlighting emotional supports in schools delivered by ESOL transition counselors. In the first graph, you can see the number of circles that have been completed in the first quarter. Number 11 are circle keeper circles, and 10 are restorative justice circles. Some of the topics discussed in these smaller circles with students are around grief and loss, healing, peace and repair, conflict resolution, check-in, community building, crisis, staff building, and acculturation. In the second graph, we have the guidance lessons that the ESOL transition counselors are delivering to our ESOL 1 and 2 and MET students, or students with interrupted education. These are being delivered in their classrooms in their native language and in a culturally proficient way. Some of the topics in the guidance lessons include 9th grade goal setting, newcomer orientation, acculturation, information about high school and Down County consortium choice, new school year introduction and expectations, and bullying is another topic that is covered with our students. The ESOL transition counselors also receive county-wide referrals from all 209 schools in the district. So far, we have received about 189 referrals, and the ETCs will go to those schools to support those students. We have hired, it's important to note at this point that we have hired 5 new additional ETCs that will be supporting at the priority schools, and we just finished our second round of interviews to fill the remaining positions. Next slide, please. In addition to the targeted training for key personnel, we know that professional learning for all of our staff in schools and central office is key to meeting our goal. Over 125 staff members from our priority schools are currently completing the Supporting Unaccompanied Immigrant Youth in U.S. Schools training led by Immigrant Connections. In addition to professional learning opportunities, and as a result of the coordination, collaboration, and communication under one Office of Teaching and Learning, newcomers are included in the school improvement plan through their EOL measures and student well-being teams, where leadership teams are supported on ensuring all students receive what they need. Teachers receive instructional supports through life coaches and curriculum specialists, so newcomers receive the support they need. And our office works to support the implementation of SEL curricula, counseling and mental health supports, restorative justice, and programming for college and career. Next slide, please. This slide speaks to parent engagement and support. In addition to over 50 parent community coordinators providing one-on-one support to newcomer families and assisting schools with improving their parent engagement practices, our office offers Parent Academy workshops. They are offered to all MCPS families, but we're specifically targeting newcomer families on a variety of newcomer issues, including reunification, acculturation, and trauma. Over 300 families have been served so far in over 22 different topics, including social emotional learning, technology support, and mental health. The workshops are offered in our top 7 languages, and we are working to add the most represented Mayan languages for future workshops. Next slide, please. Our presentation would not be complete without thanking our wonderful partners on the collaborative efforts we have engaged in since last February. In addition to our tireless work within the steering committee, some of our interagency collaboration and initiatives include our collaboration with DHHS on newcomer coordinators, collaboration, navigator coordination to support med sites and the wellness centers. CASA, our collaboration with them around navigators in the Welcome Center and assistance with enrollment and application for care for kids program. The Guild Center, we've been collaborating with them to make sure that our newcomers have access to the legal services they require. Our collaboration with the Primary Care Coalition, enrolling students in care for kids. Identity with case management. DHHS with positive youth development, and Luis mentioned that earlier, and our work, our upcoming work with Soccer for Change, and all of the staff members from multiple offices who have come to support us at Rocking Horse through the summer and now. Although we have accomplished much in the past 8 months, there is clearly more work to be done to support one of our most vulnerable student populations. We look forward to our continued collaboration with all of the opportunity to share our work with you today.
This slide just lists our key contacts. I think Margarita is so humble in her presentation. She's such a critical member of the steering committee, as well as being the lead on this education subcommittee. So this screen lists all of our contacts by committee, and that ends our presentation.
Thank you so much. Last, we're going to hear from Mr. Uriburu, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A after that. I've got a bunch of questions. I know my colleagues do as well. Mr. Uriburu, you are on.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the County Council, to the Board of Education, and the County Executive for really deeply caring about these young people and families, for supporting the efforts that have made a tremendous difference thus far, and for also holding us accountable. We need you to hold us accountable. Montgomery County and these immigrants and asylum-seeking youth and families could not be in better hands. You have put together a tremendous team of people who deeply care, who are ready to innovate, to act quickly. It is amazing to be able to be part of that team. There's 3 areas of concern that I'd like to share with the council and the board. One has to do with something that Joann quickly mentioned, and I think we mentioned it the last time we testified. Something that happened in the past surges, which is the conflict between immigrant young people and US-born and Black young people. Now that fight has erupted. We see it happen in middle schools and in high schools, and we are not prepared to deal with the consequences of that. One of which most of you know is that when the newly arrived young people are attacked, then gangs such as MS-13 offer them support, and we begin to kick out the cycle of gang recruitment and the growth in gang activity. And we've seen cases where there's been already a death, but this type of behaviors are happening countywide. We're working with a small team of individuals to try to come up with an intervention that will include immediate intervention in order to stop the fights, and then to have some prevention programs in order to bring Black and Brown closer together, because our young people don't know yet that they have a lot more things in common than not. So we're working on that, and we're hoping to have something ready by the end of next week. We're going to present it to the county executive. So we're working very diligently to develop something that is high quality, that really addresses the problem. The other issue has to do with legal services, as you heard from Ms. Wu. And last but not least, has to do the county, HHS particularly, is able to mount these responses very, very quickly because it has a history of investing in nonprofits and in its own cultural competency capabilities. And that is what allows HHS to respond so well to different crises. The same is not true with MCPS. We have wonderful people like Margarita and Everett, and the board has been incredible in pushing the system to become more culturally competent and responsive. Acting Superintendent McKnight has done so too, and in ways that we've never seen before. But it's impossible to catch up in a few months to a system that has not been that culturally responsive for decades, particularly as it relates to Black and Brown students. So we urge the Board of Education and MCPS to be more innovative, to look at other ways of supporting these young people and families. We are great at the planning level. We are great at the policy level. The implementation, and maybe because of the lack of capacity, is where we have great or grave concerns. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Uriburu. So I have two questions I'm going to ask now, and then I'm going to turn it over to Chairman Rice to make some comments, ask some questions. And then in the queue, we have Councilmember Navarro, followed by Councilmember Jawando, and Ms. Sfse has a couple of questions as well. Before I ask my questions, though, let me just say, wow, I really am impressed with the level of breadth and the level of dedication and commitment shown by everybody on this call. And there are others who are not part of this presentation who are also deeply committed to and very engaged in this work. And this has significant consequences. You heard some of those from Mr. Uriburu earlier. When we don't get this right, it just perpetuates some of the ongoing challenges we've had now for generations, which lead to some really troubling and in some cases, tragic circumstances. And so, going as far upstream as we possibly can to provide the level of support, both emotional and academic, legal, and in a myriad of different ways is in everyone's best interest. I can't stress that enough, and so important for us to be able to do this moving forward. So, and what we are doing here today, I'll just note, I have the opportunity to do some consulting work on the national level from time to time. And I can tell you very few jurisdictions, in fact, I can't think of one who is doing exactly what we're doing in the way that we're doing it. So it's something that we all should be extraordinarily proud of. Even members of the Biden administration have reached out over the last 6 months to find out what we're doing here in Montgomery County to see how it may be replicated in other parts of the country. But as has been noted, there's always an opportunity to improve and to learn and to evolve. And so the next two questions I'm going to ask are sort of in that vein. I'm going to start with just a couple of questions from my colleagues and friends at MCPS. And I had the opportunity to visit the Rocking Horse facility just a few months ago and was very impressed by the team and the onboarding and the infrastructure and the holistic manner in which we are addressing the needs of these students. My questions are more about that transition to when they are sent to the individual schools. I appreciated the presentation on what we're trying to do with the additional layers of social and emotional support, with the training that I believe over 120 key staff members have already taken. But is there a point of contact that the students are given in the METS programs when they are transferred to the METS program? If so, who is that point of contact? And then related to that, how is information being tracked at that point? Are there surveys and analysis, beyond sort of the baseline academic support? Because as everyone has acknowledged, there's a myriad of needs here that go much deeper than what's on the surface. How are we tracking that information? Who is tracking that information? If anybody from MCPS could answer that question, I'd appreciate it.
Great question. Sanja, if you are on the line, would you be able to speak to the point of contact at the METS programs?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. This is Sanja Blotner, the supervisor. Okay, let me start my video too. I'm the supervisor with Montgomery County Public Schools working with secondary schools. So good question, Ms. Albonazo. When we look at students leaving the international office and going to schools, at the middle school level, there are content specialists who would be receiving the students and making sure that they're in the academic program. Of course, the families would follow the same enrollment process. At the high school level, there are resource teachers. So, and you asked a question about more than just the academics. So the role of these staff members would mostly focus on the academics. However, they do connect and collaborate with the resource counselors. They also work with staff that works primarily under Ms. Borges. And so they would be making sure they're making those connections so that there are supports in place for students for their social emotional needs. If there's that need to reach out to parents, that happens. And of course, we're really focusing in on helping and supporting these students. As you saw, many of them are level 1, so that we can make sure that they're developing their language, and also in some cases literacy and math are some areas that we need to work on. So that is kind of a concerted effort. We have been monitoring the data regularly, and we actually have data discussions that happen with the staff. So I have an instructional specialist, Ms. Sandra Mackin, who actually works with schools to meet and kind of go over how students are progressing. And we do monitor that data internally as a new department with our Department of English Learners and Multilingual Learners. We call ourselves DELMI. So yeah, there is a whole process in place for how we are following up and monitoring students. And we know that it's an unprecedented number. And we also know that there's going to be a lot more that needs to be done to just make sure that their needs are being met.
Yes, and I'd like to jump in, Sanja, to also remind everyone that when we enroll the students, we copy our ESOL transition counselors, our parent community coordinators, so that they're also receiving the students at their assigned schools and working closely with all of the staff members that Sanja just mentioned.
I appreciate that. I think that one thing that would be helpful, and I've been in this world a long time, as you all know. When I was the director of the rec department, lots of phenomenal collaboration between HHS, Recreation, in the previous 2 waves. And I know that, a lot of this is about relationships and sharing information back and forth, particularly students that are especially in crisis for a variety of different reasons. And I know sometimes confidentiality can be a challenge because we want, obviously, to honor the confidentiality and the legal requirements that each of us have. But I would just urge us, especially with this current wave that's come through, to the degree to which that we can share and cross-collaborate on information on the ground level, back and forth, I think would be very important. And, there's been a significant state of transition in each of our schools, as there is every year. But in particular now, not every METS program is the same. And not every program has the same level of support structure, across the board. There isn't, for a variety of legitimate reasons, there isn't always that same consistency. And so I think that some schools are more open to or make a higher priority sharing some of the information, directly with some of our wraparound service providers, Identity, HHS, and many others. But I think if we can establish moving forward a baseline so that there is more of that consistency, I think that would be really helpful. I know we're heading in that direction, but I think that would be great for everyone, and obviously, especially the students themselves. Final question before I get into the queue here among all of my colleagues. We had discussed in the last briefing several months ago, and this is a best practice that we've all acknowledged, the peer-to-peer support for students. Now, we're trying to provide that through Soccer for Change. We're trying to provide that through Imagination Stage and Oimed, and there are other examples, but those are more extracurricular outside of the school day. within the school day, within the first and last bell, what systems are we establishing for that peer-to-peer engagement of students? Because as adults we can provide all the support that we can, but it's often the students themselves who are well equipped and trained and supported who can really break through and provide what these students need even more than we can. So just if somebody could elaborate on the peer-to-peer component.
Yes, I'm happy to elaborate. As you mentioned, many of the schools have their own programs that they've been rolling out to support their newcomers. And some of these details is what our incoming newcomer coordinator is going to help us with. But we have already started conversations with our director over and creating programs at these priority schools so that newcomers who have been here for a few years and be able to give them SSL hours, but create a mentor or buddy system that we can roll out for them. Because as you said, it's very important for them to have peers that they can rely on and work with.
Okay. I appreciate that. So I'm going to put myself in the queue so we can get to my colleagues. But Chairman Rice, you're first up, and then we're going to go through the queue again, just for everybody. Oh, Mr. Monteleone, I think you've got your hand up. If you wanted to respond to that too, please.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just new Zoom format here. I just wanted to address the question that it sounded like that you were asking, sir, about the peer-to-peer support at schools, right? And what I can tell you, having just come from Richard Montgomery High School as principal for 7 years, and knowing the work of my former high school colleagues, and Richard Montgomery being a METS site, what I can tell you is that normally the opportunities we have for peer-to-peer contact and support and tutoring are through existing channels, right? So, but there's not I will say this, there is not a system-wide peer-to-peer program at this time, right, that we employ across all schools. That is certainly something that we can look at as we look at best practices and elevate them. But these things are occurring. I can tell you, again, from my experience, we had weekly lunch meetings with all of our MET students and our ESOL students, and we had a student leadership club that was created and organized solely to engage in dialogue and have lunch with our newcomers and speak to them in English and make them feel welcome. Many schools also have peer-to-peer mentoring that is housed through the counseling office. So there are a lot of channels that are available to students, but they are through school by school individual programs that already exist. So I'm jotting down some notes, and what I'm hearing is we should perhaps look at our resources, look at best practices, and think about a system-wide way to ensure that students have that connection and not leave it up to the variability of the schools.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that response. Chairman Rice.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. And let me just piggyback off of what you've already said. I think that coordination is going to be key, and you kind of addressed my point, but I want to delve into it a little bit more because I think that it's not just communication and coordination, but it's also consistency. We know that so many of our schools that have linkages to learning, that have, as you heard from Mr. Cardona, have the health and wellness centers and others to where we already have some of those services, whether it's METS or whatever the case may be, that's already in the schools, but others don't. And so they don't seem to always be as then well-versed in terms of what is available for the students and how they can link with our nonprofits and with Health and Human Services. And so my question is more, do we have kind of that cheat sheet that's available for administrators to know that, hey, or a checklist that says, hey, this is a new coming student who's here. These are the services that are available. Go through the list, make sure that all of these are things that you're connected with. Do we have something like that that we provide to our administrators? And if not, I'd like to request that that's something that we do, because then it just makes it so much easier than just having them rely upon individual know-how oftentimes, or something that's online. That's great, but you've got to search for it. Our administrators are busy, with tons of students with all other kinds of needs, just like we have our students who are newcomers to this country who have needs as well. So let's make it easy for them. So first question, do we have something like that? Second, if we don't, is that something we're working on?
And I'm happy to
Go ahead, Evan.
my apologies. I'm happy to respond to that. Through Student Family Support and Engagement, we do have a one-pager that lists the information. I can definitely have my colleagues add to that, but lists critical supports as far as social emotional well-being pieces, as far as our community partners, a myriad of resources that, yes, that our administrators, and not just our administrators, I would add, because we know it's not just the administrators that support our students, that our schools in general, the staffs in our schools, as well as our central office supports can access and tap into those resources. But I'll allow Ms. Borges if you wanted to add some additional information as well. I'm not sure, she might be frozen.
Yeah, I think she might have gotten frozen again. Well, let me just ask this, because so I know there are different
resources. And
oh, Ms. Borges, you had actually frozen for a minute. So if you could start at the beginning. Uh-oh, I think we lost her. So one of the things that I just would ask is, because I know that with welcome sessions and all kinds of things like that, again, just in general, what I've heard is that it's not always the same, or it's not consistent amongst all the schools where students may be attending. And so I'd like us to get to that point where it's a standardization. So first, if you could send that one pager to us, that would be great. So if you could send that to Linda, so that she could disseminate that to the members of both committees, that would be fantastic, just so we could see what it is that folks get, that gives them the information about the different things, but then also just the adherence to make sure that they're doing it. So it's great to have something that's there. It's another thing to adhere to the policy and make sure that, again, everybody's getting the same thing, so they can start off with the same footing, right? It's great to have programs, but if folks aren't attached and we don't have the communication about what's available and what's there, it makes it tremendously challenging for them. So if we could do that, that would be fantastic, because I know that when we get it right, we do great things. And so that's incredibly important for all of our students who are coming here. And then my second question, this is just my last one, is just going to be around human trafficking. As many of you know, I serve along with the current council president, Tom Hucker, on the Human Trafficking Prevention Committee. And so therefore, we're very aware and in tune to what's been going on with many who have newly arrived to this country and who continue to be preyed on by sex traffickers and by human trafficking, human traffickers as well. And so from that perspective, I'm curious as to, I know that before, our school resource officers were a great lifeline between the conversations with our school administrators and with the police department, and ensuring that when we saw some things that were out there that we were able to quickly identify. I've been concerned that because of the new restructuring of the program, that some of those ties may have been severed. So I'm just trying to double check in terms of, do we still have that line of communication between administrators and our now community engagement officers to ensure that those same resources are still provided, that identification to whatever extent is practicable is still there and being able to be worked on. I'm not sure who could answer that, but.
This is Joann Barnes. I will point out, I think we may have gone over it fairly quickly, but on the progress slide for the committee that's handling anti-discrimination, public safety, and human trafficking, they did mention the fact that they have already provided some training with the school security officers, as well as the MCPD community engagement officers, and that same training is being planned for school administrators in all MCPS secondary schools.
And when will that take place, Ms. Barnes?
I do not have a date for that. I know that Jody is not on with us this morning. I don't know if anyone else has that information. I do not have it, but we can get it.
Yeah, if you could get that to us, because, you know, obviously with kids arriving every day, we want to make sure that that's done right away and that we're not suffering as a result. And if we need to do something in the meantime while people get trained up, we certainly want to do that as well. So just wanted to make sure that we're watching and maintaining that. Again, these are all anecdotal, just that I've heard from some administrators who've expressed some concern. And so I just wanted to make sure that we still had those lines of communication, as well as ways to help identify and provide support for some of those victims. So, okay, thank you very much. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chairman Rice. I see that Mr. Cardona has his hand up, I think in response or to elaborate on one of the questions. Yep.
Good.
Yes, Councilmember Rice, I just wanted to echo what Joann Barnes mentioned. And in that subgroup, we did have that conversation as Mr. Clark, as well as Mr. Andrews, and the Special Victims Division of MCPD had expressed some concerns and the need to make sure that we expanded a training specifically for secondary school administrators, middle school and high school administrators. So again, they will become more aware of what the resources are that are available for the schools, for their students, and also as part of compliance with the 2010 MSD Safe Schools Act. And so that's part of the intent, is to move forward to get that session going. But as you know, administrators have quite a lot on their plate, so it's just a matter of finding a date and a time that's conducive. But we'll see.
So, Mr. Chair, if we could follow up on that point to just get a little bit more detail to make sure that we've just got our I's dotted and T's crossed when it comes to providing the supports, because, you know, it's just another confirmation from Ms. Cardona. And I appreciate and understand where we are in terms of moving towards a different sort of structure. But in the meantime, I'm very concerned because, you know, this is every day that we don't have something that's there is another opportunity for a person to fall prey. Twisting my words today. And so from that perspective, it's really important. So if we could just follow up on that and just get a little bit more information, I think that would be great. But thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And first, thank you. This is amazing. I mean, there's just been so much work that has been done by this team. And it is such an extraordinary, multidisciplinary team that I think it's why we're seeing a lot of really amazing work. I wanted to ask, can you guys hear me? I don't know if, can you hear me? Okay, cool. So I wanted to ask a couple of questions. Because of time, there are some that I'm just going to request if we could get answers in writing through Linda. And I'll just ask those first, and then I want to ask a more broad, more macro question. One question, if I can get the answer in writing, in terms of the students who are arriving that may come with diplomas from their countries, how are those diplomas being evaluated, and are they being enrolled? Obviously, there's usually equivalency issues, and I just want to understand how many are just being accepted as, hey, you graduated from high school in your country, therefore we're not going to enroll you, or you do need to go through, you know, an extra year or something like that. So if I could get that in writing, that would be great in terms of numbers. The issue about Edison High School Korea students being unable to access the Wheaton Wellness Center. Just curious if I could get some more information about that. Specifically, what are some of the barriers? Because we have such an amazing asset right there, the Wellness Center. I want to make sure that we are actually taking advantage of that asset. It just makes a lot of sense. Also, I know that there was in one of the slides and request to increase the capacity of the street outreach network. If I can get in writing some of those areas where we can beef up that capacity, especially because we're going to get into budget very soon. The two areas that I wanted to just ask, number one, I wanted to just pose a broad macro question. And I say this because, of course, I've been here a very long time. We have experienced these waves quite frequently. And one of the things that I think we also need to acknowledge is that it's not just the issue of the newcomers, but it's also the fact that once they are here, it takes a while to get everybody acclimated. I still remember very clearly the first time when I came to the United States, very different experience. Obviously, I came with my father who was going to college, came here for 2 years, but the school that I came into had never had a student who didn't speak English, and they didn't have any supports. It was a bit interesting to navigate all of that, but I had extraordinary support at home, and they did everything they could. I learned English quickly. Nonetheless, it can be a very challenging experience. So imagine these young people that are coming here through extraordinary trauma and the issues of refugees worldwide, which obviously have an impact. And we heard the countries of origin that were described as well. So there's a part of me that's starting to wonder if, given the demographics of our school system, isn't it time for us to think about some approach that can be either scalable? So, for example, wellness centers that every perhaps school that has METS program or whatever has wellness centers, or an expansion of wellness centers to be strategic that can also serve elementary or middle school families. Since we have a prototype already, shouldn't we be talking about something like that? Or conversely, should we be talking about maybe a newcomer high school that could also have wraparound services and maybe almost like a hub program? And the reason I ask that is because as I'm hearing this presentation, there is a lot of effort being put into this. And no doubt there's been a lot of resources allocated both within HHS and the school system. But the idea of starting to think a little bit more around centralizing some of these supports with the wraparound services seems to me to be more cost efficient, and probably we will see better results. Because again, this is not just addressing the issue when it's right here in front of us and when you see the surge. This is what happens as we continue to do whatever we can to integrate all of these students into their academic, social, community life, and the families, which we don't talk too much about. How can we do that as well? So that is one question that I pose to the group. It's something to think about, and also to my colleagues. And if somebody wants to answer that, the second question I'll ask would be specific to Mr. Cardona. He mentioned the leadership conference. I'm curious to hear a little bit more of the feedback of the young people who, after all, are the ones who I think can best tell us what are the challenges that they're facing. So if somebody would want to just, respond to this notion of, is it time for Montgomery County to think through and perhaps act upon a much more either centralized or a much more, or just leverage some of the things that we have, but make it a little bit more centralized and have the wraparound services and all of that in one place.
So, Councilmember Navarro, I won't speak for MCPS. Good morning, and good to see you again. Good
morning.
I won't speak for MCPS on this, but I will speak for HHS around the wellness centers and around this whole unaccompanied minors and newcomers initiative. Part of how I think about it and how we think about it in the department is that there are really two goals. One is building out this immediate response that we have to build out now to respond to this current wave, and drawing on all the lessons that we've learned from previous waves to make sure that this is reflective of those lessons and that we're anticipating the needs. But the other piece of this for me is that this is building a series of what I think of as permanent structures to be able to deal with newcomers as they arrive, whenever they arrive, so that we've got a system in place that exists beyond this moment. But the other, I found this on the web. Oh, sorry, phone's talking. The other thing is that a part of this, to your point, I think it's both and. I mean, while we may need to do something that centralizes the services in a place, we also need to absolutely work to make sure that all the existing structures and the structures that we build have capacity built into them to work with newcomers no matter where they are. Because if they come and they spend time in a high school, at some point they may move out into other high schools or other middle schools or other schools, and we have to have the capacity to recognize them, to recognize that they are newcomers, to recognize that there are special needs for the group, and to meet those needs, or at least be able to connect them to the services that they need, no matter where they show up in our system. So, from our perspective, it's both of those. The wellness centers, I think, when you talk to when Luis answers the question around this, I think is absolutely going to be crucial to that, and I do see expanding wellness centers across the county in the future, and as we build that building in this capacity to respond and support newcomers, it's got to be an integral piece of that solution.
Is there somebody from MCPS that would like to respond to this notion?
Yes, council member. This is Damon Montleone, Assistant Chief of Teaching, Learning, and Schools. What I can tell you is that Montgomery County Public Schools has thoroughly enjoyed, our students have benefited from, and our community and families have benefited from the Wellness Center model. I had the honor of teaching at Northwood High School about 10 years ago and was able to see this in action firsthand. So without a doubt, we would be open to continued engagement on this topic and to see how we could bring more of those centers to scale. We'll say that absolutely 100%. To directly address the prompt of the question you had, council member, about a centralized newcomer high school, to my knowledge, that there has not been really any front loading of conversations to that end that I have been aware of thus far. But in terms of centralizing our supports, I have a meeting either today or tomorrow about really scaling up our own International Enrollment Welcoming Center. It's about time here at MCPS that we are putting our resources and all of the things that we have at our disposal into a truly well-rounded and comprehensive welcoming center, in addition to the facets that are already included at Rocking Horse at this time. So I think that the impetus for change is clear. The charges are clear. The data is clear. The energy and the leadership vision is united around everything, the spirit of everything that you have said. Certainly, as it comes to budget season and things of that nature, there are budget implications for all of this. But the spirit of MCPS is in concert with you and with the county council. One thing I did want to touch upon quickly is, similar to DHHS, since I began getting in the weeds on this work in September with Margarita and her team at IAE, we really have we've had two trains kind of running simultaneously, right? One is responding to the immediacy of the needs of our students and our families that are coming to us and building up our infrastructure and our capacity to handle that, and really recalibrating, frankly, and throwing away some of our processes and inventing them to meet our current needs. Simultaneously, we've had this other train that's left the station with our technology office and bringing to bear for our new families all of the easy interfaces that we have put together for other programs and other partnerships that we have in MCPS. And I think looking to this welcoming center, like looking at how we truly have a welcome center, whether it's at Rocking Horse or not, right? Looking at a physical structure even. And so all of this is on the horizon. So I don't have a specific answer to the centralized newcomer school, but I can tell you that we would be happy to engage and continue to engage rather with county leaders to all those ends.
I appreciate that. I think there has been an evolution. When I was about to leave the Board of Education, I led the effort to actually build the wing that now sits in Rocking Horse, specifically for the international students and their families, because when they used to arrive, they would be in the hallways waiting, and in the winter, they would get really cold because they would open the doors. And that was one of those pieces that I felt was so important. And I think that in some ways, we need to always take a step back and understand that once upon a time, international student enrollment was maybe, I'm not going to say a trickle because we've always been a destination, but things have shifted in terms of the complexities of the needs of the families and the students arriving. And so your concept of expanding into a welcome center, I think it's an important one. But I do think that there needs to be some sort of evaluation around these other possible models. I assume that if you had some sort of either high school or a combination of, wellness centers, welcoming center, et cetera, that the transition then into the school life will be probably easier, right? That the integration of these students would be a bit easier because you've done all that work in the front end versus sort of like you get enrolled, you go to maybe a CREA, or a MET class, et cetera, and then you're kind of like expected to just integrate so fast. I think that puts a lot more pressure on not just the MCPS staff, but I think just in general to integrate all the students very quickly because it is not an easy thing. So I would be very interested if there, can continue to be perhaps a conversation between HHS and MCPS around some possibilities that we can evaluate during budget that go a little bit outside of what we've done, but leverages what we have in place and perhaps starts to think through centralizing some of these services as well. So thank you for that. And if somebody can follow up on that, would be great. But if I could have Mr. Cardona just share a little bit about sort of the feedback from the conference and then maybe the role that the wellness centers have also played.
Okay, so a couple of things. I'll start with the second part and then go into the first part. So with the second part, and prior to the pandemic, when Dr. Gales was still here, we had a series of meetings within HHS exploring the possibility of expanding the use of wellness centers as kind of like community health hubs of some sort. And unfortunately, as the pandemic hit, it really undermined any additional follow-up to those efforts. I will tell you that on a good note, and Stephanie, I know, I believe Stephanie is on from MCPS, we've had a series of conversations around the mentoring initiatives within MCPS, exploring the possibility of doing the same thing. And most recently, Dr. Chris Rogers and I had a meeting where we talked about, what those possibilities are. Now, granted, we know we continue to, as an agency, focus on the pandemic, but it is our hope in the immediate future that we can move forward in doing so. And I really believe that the out-of-box thinking that Dr. Rogers brings to the tables may help us to get to that point, because he's been very supportive of the idea. But we know that we have to have an extensive conversation, not just within HHS, but also with our partners in MCPS as well, to ensure that we're all on the same page and figure out, what that will look like potentially if that's where we go. Okay. Now, with regards to the youth leadership, one of the good things that, and I want to give kudos to Carolina Camacho and her staff, along with the National Center for Children and Families, because they helped administer a survey. And out of the 100 or so students that attended, we had over 75% that completed the survey. And it was really interesting to hear some of the things. For example, we know that 94% of the students had mentioned that they found a caring adult at their wellness center that really made them feel like they could succeed academically and socially. They also acknowledged the fact that the conference in and of itself, 94% of the attendees said that they learned something new about resources that are available to them here in the county. 97% of them felt respected at the conference. 94% of them would recommend the conference to friends. And 94% felt more positive about the future just as a result of the conference. Now, we know that a conference in and of itself is just one thing. It's not what's going to always ensure success for any young person. But I do believe that in the context and the spirit of what many of my colleagues and peers have talked about today, is that connection, that engagement, feeling valued, plays a huge role. And one of the things that I was really pleased about is that about 75% of the participants said they would like to take on an active leadership role in helping to plan out future conferences as well. So I'll end by just saying that two of the bigger challenges that we heard from is that 25% of the newcomers that attended the conference shared that they missed their families, which means a significant amount of them are not with their biological parents. 23% of them had expressed being concerned about learning English and school connectivity, which is typical. I mean, we see that, and that falls not just within schools, but community connectivity as well. So that's some of the raw data that I have, and I can assure you that as we look through this data and we discuss it within the steering committee, we will gladly provide the council a follow-up report on the conference.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that very much. I think that we have some really good nuggets here to explore with my colleagues, especially when it comes to the Wellness Center piece. The last thing I will say is that I did hear loud and clear some of the tension that exists between our Black and Brown students. And it is my hope that, maybe with Mr. Cardona, working with Tiffany Ward, et cetera, maybe there could be a follow-up conference that, brings some of our young folk together to identify the things that actually bind us and the things that we share. And I think that is a very important piece that we do need to address, and we do have, capacity in place that has been established precisely for us to work on some of these issues of equity, but understanding each other and understanding our shared history and understanding our shared, dreams and challenges, I think goes a really long way to perhaps appease some of these types of tensions that then escalate to, incidents that we do not want to see ever in our community. So I offer that as a possibility of a follow-up, conference or meetup or something of that sort to just begin to build those bridges between our Black and Brown students.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Navarro. Amen to all of that. Couldn't agree more. So just quick time check. We've got 14 minutes left before a hard stop. We're not going to get to everyone that's in the queue. So, but what I'd like to do is Councilmember Jawando is up next. I would love for our Board of Education to have the opportunity to ask the final set of questions. And so Carla Silvestre is in the queue after Councilmember Jawando. And I'm going to ask that all of my colleagues send an email to Ms. McMillan with questions that they weren't able to get to today, and then request my colleagues in HHS and MCPS to follow up with responses to those questions. We'll schedule a follow-up session as well, but after the new year, because we know how important all of this is. But I just wanted to give everybody a sense of where we're going to go from here for the next 14 minutes. But Councilmember Jawando.
Thank you. No pressure. Good to see everybody, and thank you for this session. This is, to your point, Councilmember Alvarez, it's heartening to see that we are taking such care and doing so much. Can always do more and better and faster, but it's really good. I'll try to be focused with my questions, just picking up on the conversation about the wellness centers. Absolutely, need to expand that. Talk about how we can expand those, not only the role in the function, but also the number. And as part of our, plan to ramp up services for all of our students, focusing through an equity lens, we have to take those steps in this budget. I asked, I won't name the person, but I asked a retiring school official, what was the number one thing you think we could do to address the social, emotional, and opportunity gaps in our schools? And almost the immediate answer was to have a wellness center everywhere, and at all 25 high schools as a start, and so we've got a ways, and I know we all want those types of things, but I think we have to chart that plan. So really happy to hear that conversation, and I'll be eager to see what we can do in the context of this year's budget as well. So please get back to us on that. One of the things that was mentioned at the beginning, way back in the HHS presentation, was the ability to connect with newcomers is a challenge. And I want to just allow someone to respond to that directly, because what are the specific challenges we're getting? Because we know who's coming from ORR, right? We have a list. We know the people. When you say difficulty connecting, what do you mean by that, and what are we doing to address it? And can you just expound on that? Maybe Joann, I saw you put your camera on.
Yes, thank you. Initially, I know that's a comment I made as one of our challenges as part of our communications plan. And there are a couple of issues that we run into. Certainly, we have people out in the field now who are doing the work. We want to make sure that we get them in the right places, but then we have to have folks who have the right language and cultural capability. So some of it is on us to continue to raise our ability to meet that need. The other issue is the trust issue. Overcoming the trust issue of dealing with government. And part of our communications campaign is going to use the same techniques that was used in Salute Yvonne Star to try and have a more colloquial or familial approach to bringing our newcomers into the trusted resources that we have available for them.
Okay. So not that we don't know who they are, it's that trying to get to them with someone who's culturally proficient in a way that they trust to engage with services. That's what I'm hearing?
So,
yes, sir.
So I would add that that's part of it. I mean, the other piece of it is that we know who's coming in the door through ORR and through those formal resources. We may not always have direct, immediate connection to young ones, to youth who are arriving on their own, who are getting here on their own. And the students who connect to the school system, we have a connection with built into it, but we may not necessarily see those who are coming in and going straight to work or trying to find jobs in the community immediately. One of the things that I know that the group is working on and working in partnership with OCP is making sure that there is, and with the communications team, is to make sure that folks know, get the message out to the newcomers in a variety of different ways so they know how to reach us, and they can talk, whether it's the consolidated hubs where they're picking up food or supplies or getting their health needs met, that they know that there are routes to get more help and get engaged with the system, and that they can trust us.
Okay, thank you. And I know, Margarita, I want to hear you. Go ahead. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Just one quick thing I want to point out. We don't always know who the families are. What we get from ORR is a number of families. We don't know who those, we don't get a list. And we talk to the federal folks early in this process about changing that. And there's no energy to try and communicate with the local authorities or the state when families are released to sponsors in a specific area. So we do not know who they are.
Okay.
And I think Margarita can certainly add on the challenge that has when she's enrolling students in school. So I'll stop there, but that is a challenge for us.
Got it.
Yes, thank you, Joann. Can everyone hear me?
We can.
Yes, thank you, Joann. We don't get a list from the Office of Refugee Resettlement, so we really don't know who they are. Okay. And because we don't specifically ask for those documentations, since it divulges their immigration status, and there's a lot of reservation around that. Of course, we don't use any of that for, we don't worry about immigration status for enrollment. We usually use the paperwork to identify who the sponsor is or what their address is for residency purposes. But because we don't ask for that documentation, we may be enrolling students who are coming through the OR office, but we don't know. And if they're reluctant in sharing that with us, we are not going to press the issue. So, yes.
Okay. So that's a big problem we had talked about early on, trying to pressure the federal government to help us to be able to locate and identify and know. But so now we're just kind of, it's if we see them through MCPS or if it's communication, if they come through us, it's a lot of different routes. Okay. I'm going to be quick because I want to get to Vice President Sfse. The other question I had, we have a lot of ninth graders. If I read this packet right, that's the highest number of folks that are coming in. So one, confirm that for me. I think that's what I saw. And that's obviously a big step for any student, right? The ninth grade. And what are we doing to specifically address both the transition into high school and for that population? Is there anything we're doing in addition to the language and all the stuff we do for all the students whenever they come to us? Is there anything we're doing to try to make sure they adjust to that appropriately?
I just want to clarify that they're ninth graders to begin with. We do have students who may have transcripts that they brought, and until we can complete the credit evaluations, they just start at ninth grade. But a lot of our students are ninth graders due to the lack of credits they're bringing with them. So that's one.
Regardless of age, they're just coming in and being put in.
Yeah.
In ninth grade.
Correct, because at the high school level, it's not really according to age, it's according to the credits you've earned. That puts you in the correct grade.
So yeah, just quickly, this will be my last question. Is there, in light of that, I think that I'd like to get more information on that. I think there's a ton that raises even more questions of, okay, so you've got all these different age kids coming in at ninth grade. It's already a big transition. They're expected to learn X, Y, and Z, just like what we're doing to, in addition to everything else going on, to address that specific set of academic and social needs. So you can say something now, or we can get back to it. That's something I think merits a little further discussion at some point.
And I will just, hi everyone, Sandra again, just briefly, while I don't know I can give you a very comprehensive answer at this point, one thing you need to know is when students enter high schools, we also have a team within the school that looks at what their credits are, making sure that we create a graduation plan for those students, because we want to get them as quickly as possible in the right courses to make sure that all of their courses are what they need so they can actually graduate. So that is a process that happens in schools. And I know that our colleagues in school support and improvement are also kind of working with schools around that work.
Okay. Well, I defer back, and you can follow up with me. I want to make sure we follow the chairman's rules here. So thank you all for your work.
Well, Councilmember Joann, I couldn't agree with you more. Those are really good questions, and I'm sure you had others as well. And so what I definitely want to follow up on those and many others, because I think this consistency in how we onboard and orient beyond just the registration and the assessing the academic needs, and that's critical, so that there's an easier transition all the way through, particularly in ninth grade, which we know is so important. So why don't we now next go to Board of Education Vice President Carla Sfse, who will ask a few questions. Again, we will encourage folks to submit questions to Ms. McMillan that we'll ask that there will be a follow-up on. And I know some of my colleagues are going to have to jump off in the next 3 to 5 minutes. I will stay on for a little bit longer before our state legislative session in a little bit. But Vice President Sfse, thank you so much for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can't turn on my camera yet, but anyway, I'll be brief. Thank you. Thank you for inviting us today. I had not seen the non-NCPS side of this presentation before, so I think that is very helpful. Obviously, we are interested in the academic and social emotional well-being, and all of these wraparound supports are critical so that these students can succeed. Traditionally, this population has seen very low graduation rates, and that's unacceptable. And so I am hopeful that with this additional support, we can have higher graduation rates because these are our neighbors now, and we want them to thrive and succeed. And just thank you to the council and the county executive for this unprecedented appropriation so that we can do this work and do it better this time around. My comment has been stated by the various council members, and it's about accountability. Margarita Bojorquez brought up the number of 2,183 students that have come through her office to date. At the end of the school year, we want to know where are those 2,183 students? What were their grades like? How many services were they able to tap into? What's their attendance like? Because it's such a vulnerable population that if we don't stay on top of it every single quarter, we're going to lose them, and that's not acceptable. And so I would love to see some kind of efforts to outcomes type of tracking mechanism so that we know what is happening to these 2,183 students. What's their attendance like? Did they get legal assistance? Okay, check. Did they get care for kids? Check. Did they get connected to Soccer for Change? Check. Because right now it just still seems to, if they hear about it, if they're not attending, they might get an intervention. And so maybe this is something that the coordinators can think through so that we know we can't afford to lose any students. And so they think through accountability. How do we track all of these students and all of the services that they are getting? And just a final note about our Mayan families. As you all know, I am Mayan. My father is Mayan from Guatemala. And so they are not going to tell you that they speak Mayan in the intake process. They are not aware that they're allowed to say that. And so I really challenge the school system and HHS to really think about how we ask the question. Before the pandemic, I asked for some data to see how many Maya speakers we had in MCPS. The answer was 0, and that's completely untrue. We all know that there's Mayan students in MCPS, and so we're just not asking the question correctly. And so if we want to serve them, and it sounds like we're lining up resources to serve them, we have to think differently about the intake process. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I think this is very encouraging and hopeful that we can do better by our students. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Silvestre. Councilmember Glass, I know you're in the queue. If you'd like to make a comment now, please feel free to do so. And then I'm going to make some final comments to try and wrap this up.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. I know the alternative was not was waiting for the follow-up conversation, but you know, I'll just circle back and say that I think all of my colleagues and everybody here within MCPS and HHS, I think we're honing in on the improvements that we see are necessary, many of which are ways to get data and to better account for where these young people are, not only the schools where they're at, but the services after school. And you know, I'll just say off the top of my head also, I know that most of these unaccompanied minor are young men, and some of them are not enrolling in MCPS, so we need to have another conversation of where are they, because we're accounting for those that are in school, but there are those that are not in school as well. And so that is why it is so important that you've convened this conversation with all of the stakeholders, but quite possibly there might be more stakeholders and other aspects of county government that we need to bring in to see how they can better help those young people who need our help here in their new home. So I have other questions that we'll circle back to, but again, I really appreciate this conversation and all the work that everybody's been doing.
Thank you, Councilmember Glass. So just a few thoughts here as we wrap up. The conversation is going to continue. We will schedule another joint committee session after the new year as a follow-up to this discussion. And I would encourage all of my colleagues to submit your questions to Ms. McMillan. She will gather those, send an email to all of us with those questions, and then send them to the appropriate folks, either within MCPS or to the community stakeholders or to HHS. And I'll just note two final things here. We have the opportunity to be extraordinarily bold. There is obviously tremendous need, and there's a lot of political will. This notion that Councilmember Navarro has mentioned, which I think is spot on, to change the paradigm and how we are thinking about addressing these issues is going to be really important, and the opportunity for us to have a high school. And there are models that already exist even within neighboring jurisdictions. We don't have to look far to see what works. And I'd like for us to maybe even take a field trip to Carlos Rosario. We've been talking about that for a while. It's been on hold because of the pandemic, but I think it's time for us to bring that up again, to send a delegation over there and see what we can do everything to support these families in every way that we can, because it is so important for all the reasons that we mentioned. So this has been an extremely productive conversation. Ms. Harris, I owe you one. You were the one person on the queue who we couldn't get to today, but I know you have specific questions that we will be encouraging the team to follow up on as well. And we'll have you first up in the next joint session when we speak after the new year. But thank you all so much. And with that, we are adjourned this afternoon. So thank you.